So the last thing we need to do is to actually insert this new data into the database, right? Because right now I've printed it to the console, but I actually haven't inserted in the database. So to insert in the database, what you have to do is we will do a db.run. So I'm going to erase this. I'm going to do db.run. What db.run does is it just runs an SQL command and then runs a callback function after that command is done. It doesn't actually attempt to grab any data. So it's an alternative to db.all because db.all returns all its data. So the first line is the SQL query. So the query is insert into users to pets values parentheses $name $job $pet and parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to do an insert statement. I'm going to insert some data, one row of data into users to pets, which is our table. And then the value is going to be $name, $job, $pet. So how do we provide these values for name, job, pet? Well, we use another object, which is the parameter. So $name now equals req body name. Remember, req body was here. It's being printed out. It was simply an object. So we check that it works. So if I call it Bobby, name is going to be Bobby, job is firefighter, pet is cat. So if I do that, req body name, then $job is req body job, then pet is req body pet, and we should be all good. So now these parameters are passed into the $ variable sections in the SQL query to construct a full query. So when I first ask for, if I'm asking to post Bobby 3 car salesman bear, then this will say insert into users to pets values Bobby 3 car salesman bear, because it just grabbed it directly from the post request. Okay, so this says insert in the database, and then the final thing I do is to run a function, a callback, and this callback actually only takes one thing, which is error, whether there's an error or not. So if there's an error, we're just going to console, or we're going to send message, res to send. We're going to send an object with a key called message and a value called error in app.post/users, just for debugging. And then if there's no error, it means everything successfully completed. We're going to res.send message successful, I can't spell, fully run app.post/users. And that. So this means that if there's an error, send an error message. If there's no error, send a success message, and that's it. And again, this whole anonymous callback function is run only after the SQLite query is done. The reason why there are these callbacks is the SQLite query might take a long time. So you want to do it in an asynchronous way with callbacks. Okay, so that's it for this function. Let's actually test it now. So let's clear everything. First of all, let's do Bobby. Firefighter cat.jpg. I can't spell cat.jpg. Okay, let's see what happens in the network pane. Want to insert? Great. So I want to run insert. Let's go through the full chain of action. Notice it actually worked. So I'm going to go through the full chain of action here. First, I put these data in there. I click the insert to database button, which in the front end will run this code here, the insert button click handler, which means that it will run one AJAX call. And the call is a post to users, and name is the thing in the name box, the job box, the pet box. So when I click users here to look at the headers, you'll see that it's localhost 3000. It's a post request. If you scroll down, whoa, grab my whole browser. If you scroll down to the bottom, name is Bobby, job is firefighter, pet is cat.jpg. And the response from the server is successfully run. So how do we get from the header to response? So now we have to jump into the server code now. Remember, this is the client or browser code. The server backend code is up here now. First, it receives the request and it parses the body and console logs the body. So that's why we have Bobby, job, firefighter, cat right here. That's the body of the post request, which came directly from the GUI here. Bobby, firefighter, cat. I just grabbed the values of these text boxes. The next thing we do is it runs insert into values to pets. Now, what does it insert? It's inserting name is Bobby, right? It came from the URL, the post body. Job is firefighter, so job is firefighter, and pet is cat.jpg. So this will end up inserting, this is the equivalent of saying insert into users to pets values, Bobby, comma, firefighter, comma, cat. Good. So if that's successful, then it'll say successfully run, which it did. So successfully run is what's being sent back to the client from the server. So the server is here. It's sending back to the client. Response is here, successfully run. And then the front end code just renders this message as a HTML text in the status div. So this is what's running. It's setting status.html. So let's try to insert somebody else in. Let's try to insert Bobby2 now. What was Bobby2? Policeman? I forgot. And Bobby2 is dog.jpg. And I'm going to insert database. This is successful again. Great. If we check the headers again, it's post to users, Bobby2 policeman, and then let's say Bobby3 car salesman, and bear.jpg. Forgot if I did it in the right order, but anyways, I'm going to insert again. And third time, the charm, Bobby3 car salesman, bear.jpg. And the console here has been busy as well because it's been logging what the input to the function is. So we have all three: firefighter, policeman, car salesman. And it has gone through here and run the insert and then sent the data back to the user. Okay, so that's pretty much it for being able to upload new data into the database. So there are ways to update existing pieces of data in the database. There's ways to, say, create new columns, to erase columns, erase rows, to do all sorts of databasey things. And the way you do it is by looking up the SQLite or SQL tutorials and adapting it by putting pieces of SQL into your JavaScript as necessary. So for a final test, let's see if what happens when I reload the page, right? When I reload the page, I want to get information about our new friends. Bobby, when I get profile, there we go. My job is firefighter, and there's a cat. And Bobby2, get profile. My job is policeman, and there's a dog. And Bobby3, my job is car salesman, and I have a bear. And Bobby4 is not in the database. Bobby3 is. Bobby2 is. Bobby1 is. It's because we added them. So that's pretty much it for creating an end-to-end backend database using SQLite. So one more thing here is that remember that in our fake database, once we shut down the server, that was it. When we restart the server, the database starts fresh because it's fake. It's just an object, JavaScript object. This time though, when I close the server, I can actually see that PetsDB is still exists. And in fact, if you're curious, you can go on the command line and run SQLite 3 space pets.db, which opens up pets.db in the SQLite command line. So this command line, you have to run SQL commands. So if I say select star from users to pets, and a semicolon, when I press enter, I'll actually run that SQL statement directly in SQL. So this might be a good way to debug as well. So when I press enter, notice how I have the Philip Professor Cat, John Student Dog, Carol Engineer Bear. Those are my 3 original entries. But my 3 new entries I just added a minute ago are still in here. They persist on the hard drive. Bobby Firefighter Cat, Bobby2 Policeman Dog, Bobby3 Car Salesman Bear. And I can do similar things like select name from users to pets, which gets everybody's name. I can select name, comma, pet from users to pets. And I get name, comma, pet, and so on. So we can do all of this in JavaScript in the Node.js app, but I want to show you briefly the SQLite 3 console that you can use to just run on pets.db. So now when I use NodeMon to start up the server again, all of my changes persist. They stay there because my database still exists. So if I say Bobby now, he's found. Bobby2 is also found. Bobby3 is also found. And of course, Bobby4 is not found because we didn't insert Bobby4 into there. So that is a whirlwind tour, once again, of how to use SQLite as a database to interface with JavaScript. And finally, to clean up, if I want to back up pets.db, I can say copy pets.db, pets.db.backup, And now I have two identical copies of my database. So if you don't believe me, I can say SQLite into pets.db, and then I can write my select statements and see this data. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to SQLite and run petsdb backup. And I'm going to run this exact same command, and you'll notice that the petsdb backup has the exact same data in it because, unsurprisingly, it's just a copy of the file. So this idea that a database is just a file is actually really useful, because then you can back it up, you can remove the backup, and you can just clear the original database. So if I do an RM, if I want to start from fresh, I clear the original database, and I recreate it again using node create database.js. I recreate it again, and now if I reload, whoops, I need to start nodemon to start the server. Now if I reload, notice how, Philip is in it and so forth, but now Bobby is not in it anymore, right? Because I cleared the database. So Bobby is not in it, Bobby's 2's on it, and so forth. So let's put somebody new in. Let's put Alice in. Alice, and her job is scientist, and her pet is dog. So when I insert in the database, great, successfully run app.post users. It says Alice right here. And now if I do, I can reload the page, right? I can reload the page, all clear, but the database is still running. So if I put an Alice here and say get profile, it'll say my job is scientist and my pet is a dog. So that's PetsApp v2 in a nutshell. And once again, you can always go to the PetsApp v2 directory to see everything that's been built. So I can now npm install, and I can actually just run it. So nodemon server.js. Oh, actually I need to run, I need to create the database. And then run nodemon server.js. And then I am back to what I have. Okay, so that's it for creating a database to hook up with Node.js.